Welcome to the tower. Grab a headset and settle in because I am your director, and today we're running a full-scale, high-stakes emergency simulation. We are simulating the final approach for the high-tariff 500 to 600-word Cambridge Arabic 9680 Paper 4 essay. This explainer is specifically designed to ensure you can manage the extreme, down-to-the-wire time pressure of this exam without crashing and burning. So let's get you ready to land this thing perfectly. Okay, quick look at the flight plan blueprint today. We're going to run through radar initialization, routing the approach vector, a quick transponder retuning, hit the interactive runway workshop, and finally bring you in for a safe touchdown. All right, Section 1, radar initialization. Let's get our screens up. Okay, we've got an incoming heavy aircraft popping up on the radar grid, so let's initialize by tackling the absolute most misunderstood area of this entire paper. Before we can talk about how to succeed, we literally have to ask, why do so many students crash and lose marks on Paper 4? To figure this out, we're looking directly at the raw data extracted from the Cambridge Principal Examiner reports. And to help visualize this, I want you to imagine two simulated operators working the consoles right next to us. We have Router Alex, who represents our ideal top-tier candidate, and then we have Router Sam. Sam is the kind of candidate who gets completely bogged down in minor details, loses track of the big picture, and creates an infinite holding pattern. Trust me, you want to be an Alex, not a Sam. Now, pay close attention to these three flashing red warning lights going off on the dashboard right now. According to the examiners, these are the absolute fastest ways to violate structural safety regulations and just bleed points all over the runway. First up, confusing cause and effect. Second, completely forgetting your format and presentation conventions. And third, and honestly, this is probably the most dangerous one, providing generic answers instead of context-specific ones. Let's break down how this actually plays out in a hot seat. Think about Router Sam for a second. Sam rushes the landing by clearing arguments way too fast, just throwing out generic points that could literally apply to any Arabic text under the sun. It's like trying to land a massive jet on a completely random highway. It just doesn't work. On the flip side, look at the approach from top-tier answers, like the ones our router Alex puts together. Alex meticulously links every single point to the specific exam scenario given. It's a safe, precisely targeted touchdown. The reality is, if you want that smooth landing, context is non-negotiable. Moving on to Section 2, routing the approach vector. So let's establish the foundational architecture of the exam itself, because your essay's structural safety definitely doesn't just happen by accident. The entire theoretical architecture of Paper 4 rests on three core pillars. You need precise definitions, you need clearly mapped causal relationships, and you need tight integration with other syllabus areas. Seriously, if you try to start writing your 500 to 600 words without precisely defining your terms right out of the gate, your whole argument is going to collapse under the pressure of the exam conditions. You have to lay the groundwork first. And here is the payload map you need to memorize. It breaks down the assessment objectives into three distinct cognitive domains. You've got knowledge and understanding sitting at 33%, analysis at 33%, and evaluation taking the slight edge at 34%. The takeaway here? You need a perfectly balanced payload across all three of these domains to bring the aircraft down safely. If you just spend your time dumping facts, which only covers the knowledge domain, you are literally leaving 2/3 of your potential marks floating up in the sky. You cannot pass on facts alone. Just listen to this direct quote from the Principal Examiner report because it hits the nail right on the head. Candidates referencing cross-topic connections achieve significantly higher marks. It is that simple. If you want to log a full mark landing sequence, you absolutely must pull in arguments and ideas from across the wider Arabic syllabus. It proves to the examiner that you haven't just memorized one single rigid flight path, but that you actually understand the entire airspace. All right, Section 3, transponder retuning. Okay, wait, we've hit an unexpected structural block mid-paragraph, so we need to recalibrate and look at the technical methodology to get you back on the glide slope. But actually, before we do that, quick tower transmission check. Before I clear this response for touchdown, I need to make sure your transponder is fully updated. Hit that subscribe button for Ace the Exams right now and turn on all your notifications so you never miss a critical briefing. All right, check's complete. Let's get back to the radar. Let's dive deep into the method mark strategy. Think of this as an assessment protocol, where marks are explicitly handed out for demonstrating the correct procedural process. The examiners don't just want you to magically jump to the final conclusion. It's kind of like your Peel formatting template. Point, evidence, explanation, link. It acts as your step-by-step guide to safely constructing your argument. The examiners are actively looking to see exactly how you navigate the turbulence, not just where you eventually end up. Look, you wouldn't take off without doing your pre-flight safety checks, right? The syllabus explicitly requires you to adhere to strict conventions of presentation. You've got 4 mandatory steps here. 1. Apply proper headings to organize those 600 words so the examiner isn't lost in a wall of text. 2. Ensure your Arabic terminology is spot on. 3. Use the appropriate formats required by the prompt. And 4. Maintain clear annotation. These procedural frameworks are basically free fuel. They are easy marks. But it's crazy how many candidates just drop them because they're panicking and rushing against the clock.
Welcome to Section 4, the Interactive Runway Workshop. We are officially entering a live simulation where we are tracking your ability to interpret complex data maps under intense pressure. Imagine a 60-second visual timer ticking down right now. When you're faced with dense texts or payables in the exam, you need a bulletproof system. You use this data extraction protocol matrix. Phase 1, you extract the raw, unfiltered data. Phase 2, you interpret the primary relationships, meaning how do these different pieces actually interact with each other? And Phase 3, you draw concrete, evidence-based conclusions. Following this 3-phase protocol keeps you methodical and helps you isolate the primary trend variables without getting distracted by extraneous debris on the runway.
And this brings us right back to a massive hazard warning directly from the examiners. Confusing cause and effect is a critical structural failure. When you are in Phase 2 interpreting those relationships, you have got to cleanly separate the trend variables from their actual outcomes. If you mix up the root cause of an event with the result of that event in your Arabic essay, it's game over. Your entire analytical structure basically crashes on the spot.
Finally, Section 5, Safe Touchdown. Let's bring it home.
We are on our final approach now, and we're focusing on the absolute highest tariff skill to secure those top marks. Remember that payload map we looked at earlier? The assessment framework heavily prioritizes analytical depth over superficial breadth. So what does that actually mean for you? Well, superficial breadth is like circling the airport in an infinite holding pattern. You're just listing basic fact after basic fact, but you're never actually landing a point. Analytical depth, however, means you are constantly evaluating. You are questioning the underlying assumptions. You're considering totally different perspectives, and you are rigorously justifying your decisions with hard evidence. If you want to safely clear the runway and break into that top 34% evaluation bracket, you need to know how top-scoring candidates operate. They stress test their evidence using these 4 exact evaluation protocols. First, they actively identify the limitations in the text. Then, they highlight the implicit assumptions being made. Next, they propose alternative interpretations that maybe aren't so obvious. And finally, they assess how all of this actually affects the final conclusion. This, right here, is what genuine critical analysis looks like in practice. Now, let's look at how this translates into a real-time, high-pressure exam environment. Time management is literally everything. Here is your 8-minute time-blocked blueprint for comparative analysis. The clock starts. Minute 1, you immediately identify the core similarities and differences. Minute 3, you start deploying your high-level Arabic comparative connectives. Minute 5, you back up every single comparison with hard, indisputable evidence from the text. And by minute 8, you are drawing concrete conclusions on their relative importance. If you stick to this exact timeline, you will not run out of fuel mid-essay.
Just flagging another major examiner alert popping up on our radar here. The classic mistake is providing generic answers. Always link every point to the given scenario. We talked about this with RouterSam earlier, but it bears repeating. Context is your landing gear. You could have a beautifully written, grammatically flawless point, but if you don't link it directly to the specific Arabic 9680 scenario you were handed, it's going to crash. Generic, copy-pasted answers simply do not survive this paper.
The students who consistently master this paper, like our simulated router Alex, they manage to log those full mark landing sequences by strictly enforcing what we call the fuel to mark budget formula. Put simply, time management equals high yield prioritization. Remember, you have a very strict word limit of 500 to 600 words. That is a small fuel tank. Do not waste your fuel, meaning your precious time and your word count, on low-yield descriptive summaries. You have to spend it on analysis and evaluation, because that is where the major marks are waiting for you.
Let's run through your final approach checklist to keep your skills sharp. Number 1, obviously, practice past paper scenarios until it becomes muscle memory. Number 2, create custom mnemonics using the first letters of key terms. This is a massive memory hack to lock in those complex definitions when your brain is freezing up under pressure. And number 3, always consciously connect your cross-topic arguments to show you understand the full scope of the syllabus. And with that, our simulation comes to a successful close. Ultimately, the 9680 Paper 4 isn't just a test of what you memorized. It is a live test of how elegantly you can navigate turbulence when the clock is ticking. The question is, will you let the exam debris distract you, or will you lock onto your approach vector and land those top marks? Before you go, make sure you subscribe to Ace the Exams, enable that notification bell, and do me a favor. Leave a comment sharing which exam paper gives you the most anxiety so we can clear your next flight. Thanks for joining me in the tower today, and I'll see you in the next explainer.